I would like to give you fair warning. In this episode, we use a lot of profanity. There are multiple references to drug use, and we do delve into the realm of politics.
I think that's a really cool idea, using a rule set and making it for role play, because I think that there's something right now that we are in a role playing renaissance. Fuck war games at the moment. Nobody can actually do them the way that we want to. I think role play is where so much new shit is happening. And it's, to me, I'm super excited about seeing the creators, the brains behind these systems and what they're doing right now. What is that fantasy book, and where did you get that?
So it's called Band of Blades. The author is Strash something or other. I cannot pronounce his last name. But he does actual plays of his own that we're promoting the game. But basically it's an alternate system style indie role playing game. So it's not like a traditional D&D dungeon crawl, not very crunchy mechanics. Miniatures are not required, very theater of the mind sort of thing. But think Witcher meets Walking Dead. No, I'm serious, because I can't sound like a total idiot on my show. I mean, I'm happy to sound like an idiot on your show, but anyway, it's like Witcher meets Walking Dead, meets Band of Brothers, right? So it's this military sort of Black Company-esque, although remind me and I'll tell you my Black Company story, because Glenn Cook fucking hates me. Any which way, the author. So it's this very dark, bleak world of being hunted by sort of demigods and their undead creations, or this demigod and undead creations, and you're falling, trying to basically, you're not trying to win. It's sort of like Battlestar Galactica. You're trying to find Earth, and it's going to be really shitty along the way, right? They're trying to get to Skydagger Keep. It's just going to be ugly along the way. So what my group of buddies are doing, we're going to reskin the whole thing to do Astra Militarum. So you basically take the 40K universe, take sort of the lowest of the low militarily, and put them against these hateful demonic odds, when survival to point X is the mission, right? But once we reach point X, we know we're going to die, but that's considered victory sort of thing. So that's the game we're putting together. But we probably won't start doing episodes until after the first of the year because of COVID. And I don't want to do it online, because I'm with you. There's a total renaissance for role playing right now with Roll20, Fantasy Grounds. You have a lot of options for communicating via Zoom and Discord, but I really dislike communicating in that fashion. I mean, I was reticent to do this, and I got a specific piece of equipment because COVID's not getting better. And if I'm going to continue to produce content for my show, I have to do it this way now, which I don't care for. However, I'll do it. I don't want to play D&D this way. I don't want to play Band of Blades this way. I don't want to play Call of Cthulhu this way. I'll do it if I have to, but I don't want to. And I certainly don't want to do it for content that I'm creating that someday I hope to ask people money for.
Right. You know? That is a hard thing, and that's going to continue to be hard, until the United States fucking figures it out. Because we're in a hot spot right now, and I love my friends, and I want to hang out with all of them. But also, the only times that we've done it I've done one masked gathering with a buddy playing here, and we did one backyard movie night. A friend brought over a projector screen. We sat in the backyard and watched Return of the Living Dead, But it's winter now, and now it's getting gross out. It's flu season. It's just okay, what else is going to be going around right now? It feels like the darkest timeline right here in Missouri, and I'm not comfortable with it at all.
It's challenging, and obviously, and I'm not cavalier about it, right? I'm not careless. I definitely do take it seriously. I definitely do wash my hands. I have, I have spare masks in my glove compartment. I went to a place to legally purchase medicine, and you have to have a mask to go into the medicine store, to the pharmacy. and someone in the parking lot did not have a mask, and I keep paper masks in a plastic bag, and I'm like, hey, if you don't mind me, touching your fucking mask, man, here's a free mask. I've got it, no problem, right? So I take it seriously, but by the same token, like, I have a bi-weekly Gloomhaven game, which if you're a board gamer and you have not played Gloomhaven, it is absolutely bloody brilliant. It's #1 game on Board Game Geek, has been for a long time, and for a good reason. But I've got a couple buddies that come over with my wife, and my role-playing group doesn't get together anymore, but these guys get together to do board games. My wife makes dinner, and the four of us play Gloomhaven. We'll knock out 2, sometimes 3 sessions in an afternoon and evening and have dinner and talk, but we're all very strict about who we see. We've all been tested at least once. We're very, very safe about it but I still go to the grocery store. I'll still go to the game shop. I mean, I still live my life. I try not to be reckless and careless, but I'm not going to sequester in my home all day, every day. I can't fucking do it, or I'll blow my goddamned brains out. I'll just fucking die.
Yeah, no, I feel you there. And like, it's not the living in fear, aspect of it. It's we just had a scare as like a friend of ours was exposed to it because someone in his circle was exposed to it, of which everybody was good. Everybody was following the rules. But then you had a string of 3 people who were, asymptomatic carriers and spreading it through work until one person got sick like weeks later, like long past whenever anybody would have actually known that it was happening. So it's kind of like one of those things that like, it's gonna eventually it'll get all of us. There's no way that even a vaccine is going to be as effective as we need it to be. Like, it's going to be less effective than the flu, shot. So like, we're going to be walking into a world that this is something that we deal with until like people start taking it more seriously.
Well, and people are going to say too that the lack of efficacy invalidates the shot, so they're just not going to fucking take it. If it's a 60% chance, why am I bothering?
Well, and that's what I keep on telling people. I'm like,
now I'll take it.
I still will, but like, I know a lot of people that it's like 70% is not good enough for them to put something that they're already skeptical about into their body. And I'm like, you fucking eat garbage all the time. Why wouldn't you get a shot that could possibly prevent you from getting a debilitating?
Here's what I'm going to need you to do. Take your left hand, put it in your pants, put it on your testicles. Now, in the next 24 hours, if for even a moment, a fraction of a moment, you remove your hand, there's a 70% chance you lose your testicles. Not a goddamn motherfucker's keeping his hands off his balls. Not one. Gay, straight, ace, whatever. Everybody wants to keep their balls. So, I mean, 70% chance, I'm good, man. Give me your concoction, whatever. Give me your one world government fucking tracking demon ship. I'm in.
Yeah, well, and you're now into this better living through psychology, or not psychology,
pharmaceuticals.
Pharmacology.
Yeah.
Pharmaceuticals. You've got a whole new thing happening here, which is really interesting. Like, as I get older and the more comfortable I get, like my mom was like freaking out. Like, Oregon right now has on the ballot to like decriminalize like heroin and, crack and meth and ecstasy and like all these things. And she's just like, I was kind of on the page, but the amounts that they say, I was like, who gives a shit about the amounts? Like let's stop busting people who want to get high. Fucking leave them alone.
Right. Well, and amen, man.
Like, just let them get to a place where they either can get clean, get recovery, like add more social things to help them. But like, also like, they're not fucking hurting anybody. Leave them alone. Like they will find themselves the way that they need to be. Like, if they're an adult, they can choose what they want to do. Like, there's a reason why they're here. How about you cure the reason why instead of, like yucking someone's yum on that,
I know it is cliche, but I'm a big Rick and Morty fan, and one of my favorite moments in Rick and Morty is in the Pickle Rick episode. And they're in therapy. The daughter is there. The whole family's there, but the reason she's there is because she's huffing enamel and getting high at school, and they're all doing their sort of I statements to show their growth. And she says, and I'm paraphrasing, but she says to the effect of, "I someday wish to be seen as someone who simply likes to get high." And that's my thing,
yeah.
Right? Like I get it. I have a substance abuse problem, but if the most important person in my life is happy, she would rather have me, smoke marijuana, fucking sunrise to bedtime than have 3 beers in the same day, right? It's just so,
right.
If that works for us, then I'll make it work.
Well, I mean, that sounds like you're falling on a really sharp sword there.
It's brutal.
If that's the choice, like I have 3 beers or like
I've been
have a good time.
I'm in better shape than I've been in 20 years. It's absolutely true. I mean, I know, and I looked disgusting. So imagine what I was like before. But
so with a midlife crisis, what else has changed for you? Because like you're doing this thing of like the podcast and you're pushing it. I haven't actually had like enough time to really ask you questions of like, why are you doing the podcast? Like, what is your goal with it?
So I first appeared on a podcast years ago called Fear the Boot. And if you have fans of your show that are also role-playing game fans, they may have heard of the show. It started.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it started in 2006. At one time it was not the biggest, but one of the biggest role-playing game podcasts out there. But years later, when I was working at Fantasy Shop, I was an avid listener of the show, and I had met Dan Rapperger and a couple of the guys from Fear the Boot before, year or so earlier that for a military charity event called ZigguratCon, where we essentially gave them a good discount on some stuff to send overseas to servicemen and women who needed role-playing game stuff. Anyway,
nice.
So yeah, thanks. I mean, I didn't do anything but float a group of people my employee discount so they could buy more shit. I mean, I literally did nothing special, but the Fear the Boot folks did. Anyway,
but acknowledging that that's a thing, and like your boss, while like writing a book on fucking board game, friendly local game store, literally writing the book on running a friendly local game store. He also is a little fucking like penny pinching when he needs to be.
Yeah. So he's also at the same time one of the most generous people I've ever met. Like when my wife when my wife got shot and we weren't even sure if she was going to live, they were like, dude, just take your time off, man. Don't worry about your job.
Whoa.
Don't worry about
what? You're just gonna fucking bury the lead?
So my wife and I have been through. If you can think of a terrible tragedy and turmoil that does not involve any that doesn't involve children, there are few that my wife and I have not been through. I mean, just infidelity and alcoholism and substance abuse and just tragedy. So years ago, this was in 2005. So I'm 30. It's my wife's. Technically, it's midnight, so it's August 4th, but it was targeted on August 3rd because that's her birthday. So my wife's an only child and an only grandchild. And she's the most important person in the world, not just to me, but to everybody in her family, which makes her kind of a narcissist. But the point is that she's working for this pharmaceutical company, and she and one of her friends that work at this pharmaceutical company are being harassed by this fucking lunatic, right? And the company won't do anything about it because the primary person being harassed is a male. And this he's a monster, he's a beast of a dude, and he could have killed the psychopath barehandedly, but we're not supposed to do that anymore, right? And I don't want to get into a gender role thing. I mean, I'm a cis cracker from the Midwest, right? Like, my life is fucking charmed. There's no request for sympathy here, man. I'm fucking stoked, right? I mean, I hit the goddamn genetic lottery, right? But anyway, we can't do that anymore, right? Like, somebody calls my wife a cunt, I can't punch him in the mouth. And civil society has made us monsters, right? Because we just have to behave in a way it's frustrating. Anyway, so this guy doesn't do anything about Psychopath because he can't. So my wife and another woman at the company complain about Psychopath, and Psychopath been fired overnight, just done. So he waits almost a year.
Okay, so he worked there.
Yeah, so he's harassing my wife. I'm sorry, yeah, I'm a little intoxicated. That was unprofessional of me. I apologize. But so my wife,
I didn't know if this was like somebody who was like, I don't like this company.
No, this guy, we're gonna call him John because that's his real name. And we're going to call this other guy Shriner because that's his real name. And Shriner is Psychopath. And John is the friend of my wife. My wife's name is Memory, like as recollection, but she spells it with 2 E's because her parents are fucking hippies. Anyway, they're having this turmoil at work. My wife and another woman complain. Shriner gets fired. He waits almost a year. At around 9 o'clock or so, he's on John's street, parked, waiting for John to come home from work. Now, John worked second shift. My wife worked second shift, but she got off at midnight. John got off at 10. So this guy's waiting at John's house. Now, John was so afraid of this fucking crazy guy. Everybody believed he kept a gun in his car and that he was a nutter. John made flyers and disseminates them to his neighbors. One of John's fucking neighbors sees this guy, gets the flyer, tells his wife. His wife's like, you're not doing a goddamn thing about it. Call the police. He goes out there, confronts him. Shriner drives off. He drives to my house and parks waits there. So, I'm firmly, deeply in early stages of alcoholism at this point, right? So I'm passed out. Pretty tipsy on the couch, and my wife comes home from work, and I just been played, this is 2005, but I had an Xbox One, so I think I was steeped in Jade Empire at that time. Which way. Classic. Yeah, so any which way, I hear crack, 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 crack. And I wake up immediately, right? Now, there were only 6 gunshots because it was a revolver. Anyway. So there are only 6 gunshots. I don't know how many cracks I did. But so I figure, fuck. I sit up immediately and I swear to God as my witness, right? And I don't know if people out there are believers, but I am. And I'm not saying that I'm a Christian or whatever or a good one, but I'm a believer. And whatever it was, man, if I could swear to God, I knew something was wrong with her. I mean, it was right outside my front door, my duplex, right? I just knew it was her. And in my head, as I go outside barefoot, right, as I stand at the front door, terrified to open it, I think, oh my God, my wife's there dead, leaning. Now, this is the woman this is 2005. We've been together since 1992. We started dating the summer before our senior year of high school, right? Like we're high school sweethearts. I saw this girl in the 11th grade and it's like, I'm going to fucking marry her. So anyway, so I think she's dead. I open the door. My wife is leaning on the horn. Her driver's side window is shattered. She's covered in broken glass and blood, but thank God she's alive. So I run to the car and I do the worst thing you can do because I'm an idiot and a drunk and a fucking moron. And I open the door and I start trying to drag her to safety. Now, I don't know where the shooter is. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. I just react. My wife, being the coolest fucking John Wick motherfucker I've ever met, she's like, put me down, call the police. And I'm like, okay, call 911. Right. So I put her down. I run into the house and I call and I'm like, my wife has been shot. They're like, sir, you need to calm down. And I'm like, no. This is my address. This is what happened. My wife, of course, because she's a stud, while I'm freaking out, I'm dragging her to the sidewalk. I'm like, oh my God, what happened? She said, Mike Shriner shot me. He drove that way. Now put me down and go call the police. And I was like, oh, right. So I run back inside and I'm like, Mike Shriner shot my wife. Mike, this is my address. This is my name. Da. They're like, no, sir. Da. I'm like, no, fuck off. No. And I'm like, no, I don't cuss him, but I would still love to this day hear the 911 call. So Rick, my neighbor, comes out from we live in this duplex, my neighbor, we share a wall. He runs out. I just hand him the phone. I go to my wife and there is a coil of fat spun out of her thigh like an old telephone cord. So I don't know how young your listeners are. They may not remember what this is, but kids' phones used to not just hang on your wall, but they had these big, long, coily cords. And there was this spiral of fat spun out of her leg, right? And I was like, holy shit, you don't see that in the movies. That's dicked up. And then an angel appears. There is a St. Charles police officer in like full tack rig M4, the whole like fucking combat squared away, don't know where he came from. And then the rest of the police show up and an ambulance shows up and they load up my wife. What happened? I give him a thing. I try to go in the ambulance, they won't let me because I'm the husband. Obviously I shot her. So now, no, for sure. No, immediately. They wouldn't let me ride in the ambulance with her. I was fucking pissed, right? So I look around for Archangel Cop to see if he'll help me. He's gone. I was like, that guy's not fucking real. So, I mean, I thought I was in shock, right? I thought I was hallucinating. Like, for days, right. I mean, for at least 24 hours, I didn't know he was a real person because he got there so fast and so prepared. Yeah. I really did thought I made him up. But any which way. So now I've got to call my mother-in-law who, I mean, at this point in our lives, I think I married the wrong woman. I absolutely adore my mother-in-law, but I've got to call her and tell her that somebody tried to kill her baby. Fast forward, we're in the ER. We're waiting for surgery prep. They can't give my wife any painkillers because she's lost so much blood. So here's my old dubby ass and my fucking Birkenstock sandals, probably still buzzed, but in so much shock, I'm sober as shit. Had walked from my house to the hospital because it was only a block and a half. And that is very, very important to the story. But I didn't bother getting them. I just literally put on my fucking shoes, feet bloody, go to the hospital. Yeah, walk there or go to the emergency room. And I'm like, my wife has just been, and they're like, she's in here, sir. And so I go in there with the doctor and my wife's throwing up. She's so nauseous and losing blood and they can't give her pain meds. And then the doctor tells us that she's in serious trouble and she could die. Now, earlier when I pulled her out of the car, I thought that she'd been just hitting the rump and the leg. So she's got some bullet wounds in the butt, bullet wounds in the leg. I'm like, baby, you're fine. You're going to be okay. You're just hitting the leg. Now, I'm an idiot and didn't know at the time one bullet had just grazed her outer thigh, but she got hit full bore by the other 5 rounds of .357 hollow point. One of them goes up the inside of her left calf, passes to the inside of her left knee, exits the inside left thigh, impacts the inner right thigh, and has a bruise as black as my fucking hoodie, right? Amazing. And it was like, I mean, huge.
Doing the ricochet thing off of it.
Huge, right?
Yeah, dude,
so
that's scary shit.
That severs some nerves and causes a lot of damage, which I'll come to in a minute. But the other 4 shots go right in her ass and all the way through her abdomen. One of the bullets basically lays in a rib cage, but it has drifted, and you can actually feel it now, encased in scar tissue underneath her rib cage on the right-hand side. She's got one lodged in her right hip, and the other 2 they took out. Now, what I didn't know, because I was ill-informed by entertainment, they generally don't go after the bullet unless they have to. But one of the 2 they took out, shredded her intestines. So she lost about half her colon or half her large intestine and 3-4 feet. I forget. It's been fucking 15 years. Right. But a few feet of her short intestine. She had a colostomy for a while. So literally she had an open stoma and a poop bag on her stomach.
Stoma, yeah.
Yeah. And if you've not had a woman with a colostomy bag ride you, just to celebrate life, you have not lived, Heath. I'm telling you that is important. That's a thing that very few of us can mark off of our bucket list, is to look at our spouse's feces while we have intercourse, in a convenient bag. But, you know what? It's funny. She lived, right? And that's the important thing. Anyway, so she's got a lot of bullets in her. They rush her to surgery. I call my father. It's the only phone call I can manage, right? It's like, Dad, I don't just fucking call people. So I call my mother-in-law, Donna. She's rushed to the hospital, or she rushes to the hospital. I call my dad, who happens to be an attorney, and just say, Dad, I just need you to run interference. And he was the best he'd ever been in my life, right, during that time period. But so things calm down a little bit. Gets to the point where my wife is in the ICU, but she's alive. We can go back to my house. We don't know where Shriner is at this point. But my brother goes back with me to the duplex, and we start packing up because I've got to go someplace to stay, right? So we don't know where he's at. So the police raid the guy's house, and they find that not only was he stalking John and my wife, he was also stalking my mother-in-law. And we don't know what he had planned to do to her, but he had maps to her place and where she worked and all this stuff. And so
wow.
Next day, my brother and I don't have a cell phone at this point because I'm a technophobe, right? I'm like, I was a card carrying Luddite for a while. I mean, it was a little papyrus thing and calligraphy, the whole nine, right? But they called my brother's cell phone to find me, and I'm like, what's going on? He wouldn't tell me, so then I really freak out. So we rush back to the hospital. Now, this tiny Greek doctor, I think he was Greek. His name was difficult to remember, but it started with an N anyway. We lived a block and a half away from St. Joseph in St. Charles, which was a Trauma 1 center. Now, if we had to go across the river to the nearest hospital, she would have bled to death. Even if it was a Trauma 1 center, she was that close to bleeding out. But ultimately, the next day, we have to rush back to the hospital because the nerve damage in her leg has caused her muscle to swell up to the point where it's going to burst through the flesh. So they have to do a thing called a fasciotomy, and they cut these two huge almond-shaped swaths on either side of her calf and just let the muscle swell outside. It's so trip. Right. So I learned a lot about medicine in that short period of time. But anyway, I know it's probably way too long a story for you. But my wife is alive. She's doing fine. The guy who shot her, as soon as the breathing tube came out of my wife's throat, she picks him out of a photo lineup and tells the police, look, this guy is, she doesn't, of course, her raspy, can barely talk voice, but she says, look, this guy, this is the area where he lives. His parents have land out there. He's a woodsman and a hunter and whatever. He's going to be hiding out there. Well, they just don't go look. They don't bother, da-da-da-da-da. Days before Thanksgiving in 2005, we don't know where this guy's at. My wife's out of the hospital. She's out of the rehabilitation center. She's in a fucking wheelchair. We don't know where this guy's at. Some surveyors are out marking logs exactly in the county that my wife said this guy would be. And they're like, hey, is that car covered in stuff? And these poor loggers find him blown his fucking brains out. He'd been there dead. They assumed the autopsy. They think that he killed himself within 48 hours. The company my wife worked for at the time was so desperately being afraid of being sued because of all of the different complications that had been lodged about this guy over the years that they're, as my father put it, my dad's also an attorney, but as their attorney, my dad puts their attorney oozes into the hospital like this slimy, almost like a Lovecraftian Shoggoth, right? It was just this amorphous thing of viscous oil and evil. Oh, any which way. We're not litigious people, but we were pissed that the detectives, the police, the regular blue uniform officers, brilliant, man. Absolutely brilliant. The police detectives were useless. The press reported my wife as dead when none of the family had talked to her. I don't know who, and the hospital leaked it, but they said my wife had died, and people were terrified that I was going to hear it before I got back to the hospital, that I was going to hear it on the news or some shit. I mean, I've learned a lot in that experience and from documentaries, because I'm not a bright man, but I've watched a lot of documentaries, and if my wife and I ever had kids, man, their first fucking word better be lawyer. And if you ever say any other goddamn word to my kid before my kid says lawyer, you and I are not friends. There's one, they are not. Fair. Yeah, they are. I mean, I know they're hardworking people. They're wonderful. And I have friends who are police officers, but whew, boy, it's not about finding the truth, man. It's about closure rates.
Yeah. Right, of course. And that's one of the real problems with like police reform right now. We need something different. We need a different system to take care of stuff like this. And, to be able to, when you do have huge red fucking flags, like somebody who is, causing problems at companies that need to be fucking followed up with, like shit like that. I mean, like, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that.
Well, yeah, but
I mean, like, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger, sort of thing, right? Like you guys, now have been through things that nobody else would, in regardless of what happens in your guys' relationship, as you've mentioned.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's been tumultuous.
Yeah.
Like you guys are stronger together, and like even if love isn't there right now, doesn't mean that respect and, that aspect of a relationship still can be, like relationships are not this thing that are like, one day you're always this, like they are like an ever evolving, dune, a desert that like the winds change every night, so to go through those things and see the new formation of a human being on the other side is pretty amazing.
Here's the shit that pissed me off, right? There are two things about this that stick in my craw about the situation. One, in retrospect, I could have been a much more colossal asshole than I've ever been in my life and gotten away with it, right? And so, I mean, I had the green light for poor behavior and I did not engage in it. But two, so many people, let me rephrase that, so many women around my mother-in-law and my wife and my wife's friends and people who did not know me, who'd never met me, stunned that I'm sticking around, stunned that I'm there at the hospital every day, stunned that what the fuck is wrong with you? I was so mad that people would think so. Well, where else would I be? Like, there was just this idea that husbands, as a general rule, are such pieces of fucking garbage that I'd be at the strip club, right? That just made me so mad. Just made me angry.
Ew.
Yeah, and I didn't get it. I just didn't. Where did that come from? But my wife was like, "I don't take it personal." No, Heath, I've had an interesting life. I've been, I got beat a lot as a kid. I got hospitalized in a beating by the police that was totally my fault. Oh. It's been a delightful world.
Now I can hear you.
Yeah,
I don't see you.
I don't know. Well, all right. I mean, sorry about the blue circle. I mean, it's better looking than me, I guess.
It happens. It's all right.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. I hate. See, this is it. There's no blue circle in a face-to-face conversation. I hate it. I need to go back. However, I mean, except for a lot of the terrible things about time travel and, culture back in time, I miss a studio day. I miss where you and I would be sitting here and it would be like there would be maybe the early 80s, mid 80s. You and I'd be all coked up. We'd both have a glass of bourbon or sunglasses on. We've been fucking on a bender for 3 days.
All of our suit jackets would have shoulder pads.
You've got the whole,
rad.
You've got the cool handsome guy thing going on. So you'd be Venus flytrap, right? And, I'd be, what was his name? Not Les Nessman. He's the turkey guy, but fuck Johnny, whatever. But anyway, we would be cool radio guys, and that's sort of the dream that I would have. And be like, ladies and gentlemen, you're here with Brodeur and Aldrich. And tonight we're going to bring you these dulcet tones. We're going to listen to maybe a little bit of Al Green, do some good baby-making music, and then Heath and I are going to slather some oil all over those miniatures. It's going to be good.
I would be a Keishi. We would be listening to fucking Motley Crue.
Oh, you're a hairband guy?
No, but if we're talking the 80s, like, we're fucking, like, that's what was cool in the 80s.
Okay, well, so I'm sure I mixed my genres because, and Al Green I'm sure was not 80s, but for me, man,
it's
all
1970s.
Yeah, for me, it's all about hair, right? It's all about the big, delicious Duran Duran, the Kajagoogoo's, the Flock of Seagulls. I love me some 80s synth pop. I mean, I think Duran Duran's one of the best things that's ever happened to human beings.
Duran is like, they're amazing. They're an amazing band.
Unless they touched you someplace, then they're not so great.
True. That is a true statement. So, like, you were on a tangent about saying how everybody was shocked that you stuck around because everybody just expects
it just hurt.
Horrible pieces of shit.
Yeah, it bothered me. It bothered me quite a bit that people would assume something like that, having never met you, right, and having no background on your relationship. That bothered me greatly. But yeah, we've been through all sorts of cool stuff. I mean, she's had to pick me up from being arrested more than once, and we've had some ups and downs, but it's been a really good it's been a good run, man.
That's good. Well, I'm glad that you're back on the path.
Yeah, no, I've never fallen out of love with her, man. Never, ever, ever. Not one time. I've fallen out of like for sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah, but I've never fallen. Yeah, I've never fallen out of love. Never, not once, man. She's my world.
So my question about, like, why now? Why midlife, crisis to start a podcast, of which, not to be like a dick, but it's like you have a barrier to entry to grow this thing, of which I think you've got something that can be really special, but like the effort that you want to put into the other side of it seems to be like lacking, and like there isn't always the intern or the person who wants to do it for no money.
Oh my God. I mean, you just called me a lazy coward. See, this is why people don't like honesty, Heath, because that hurts my fucking feelings.
Dude. No,
I did stick by her, Heath.
Nobody likes talking to me about shit like this because I've done it all. And I'm now looking at the thing like, why even do it? Like why even do it? That's the question. There are a million things that are better in this world than editing fucking audio to put out to avoid that nobody else listens to. And that's from coming from like personal experience. I know this one.
I am funny and I am delightful and I am fucking wasted making whatever I'm making, sitting in somebody's game store, hustling their fucking game, right? And I very rarely, because I'm usually pretty self-deprecating, right? But there's something else that I need to be doing, or I need to go be a hermit somewhere, right? I love to talk. I love to be with people. I love to steal spotlight and, be a bully in conversation. And I thought if there is something that I have a natural aptitude, it is talking to people in conversation, right? That is an arena in which I am comfortable. And so I want to do it.
Sure.
But the aversion to technology, it's just, I don't know. It's so fucking frustrating. It makes me lose my temper so much that I don't know that doing a podcast is easier than doing video. Now, with that said, I guess I'm looking into getting the lighting and the camera and the whole thing, because I recognize that if I'm going to be successful, that this is the format that people are going to want to consume, or at least the masses are going to want to consume.
I mean, it's just such an easy way to get into somebody's house, like, quickly. And like a podcast, like there's a million podcasts out there, and like, I've tried like my employee, she loves podcasts, loves it. She's in podcast groups. They talk about podcasts that you should listen to, of which I'm like, have you checked out No Dogs in Space? It's a fucking great podcast. And she's like, no, I haven't got to that one yet. I've got too much other stuff. I'm like, okay, how does anybody break through to get into somebody's podcast rotation? And that's the difficulty that people like you and me have. And even me, like I may have a little following, but like, I still have to fight for every bit of that visibility every single week. Not gonna lie, YouTube numbers, like if I'm not interviewing like a big monster YouTuber, there's like regular human numbers on YouTube, right, which aren't like super inspiring. You know, when you go from like 5,000 views to 150 views on your next video, it doesn't make you feel bad for you. It makes you feel bad for the other person, because you couldn't perform to that level to give that person that thing. And that's the thing that I'm running into, where I'm like, I can't give people that visibility, then what am I even doing here? Because like that's my part of this is communion and exposure. And while I can get the communion, if I'm not opening people's eyes to cool new aspects of this hobby, I start to wonder if it's even worth doing. And that's, it's a really hard place for me to be in right now, because like it feels too soon to be there, especially with the growth that I have had.
Well, I'm going to ask you two questions. One, how long do you normally run? Because I can talk forever.
Normally run for about an hour and a half, which we're right about at, but you know, like we've had some technical difficulties.
Sure. Do you want me to back out of Discord, shut it down, and log back in and see if we can get my video to work?
Try it. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to give you the opportunity before I bailed. I'm going to take my sweatshirt off while I'm out too.
Okay. Try it. Looks like you're back. And you see your camera button down at the bottom?
Yes, sir.
Click it.
You see, Heath, this is why you're the expert. This is why I do audio, Heath, is because I can do this. Ladies and gentlemen, for you tonight, we have the beautiful, illustrious Heath Aldrich. You know, and do whatever. But I can do cool stuff.
This is the real truth. If you can't figure out how to click a green button, buddy, this world is going to be really difficult for you.
Well, I think that we've already established that, right? So here's the thing. Here's what I have. I have, I don't know, right? Like So here's what happened. I worked in retail for most of my life. I don't have any formal education to speak of. I don't have any real raw talent to speak of, other than the one thing that I think that I do well, that I can have testimonials for, which is personnel management. And I don't say human resources because human resources is a fucking lie. Human resources' job is to ensure that the company doesn't get sued. They don't care about you. They don't care about your benefit. They don't care. All they care about is to protect the company from lawsuits, right? I manage people. It was the only thing I was ever really good at, other than just hanging around and shooting the shit. I got tired of being the middleman, right? Like if I'm at a job, I either want to be complete autonomy or I want to be a goddamn robot where you tell me, Mike, I need you to pick up rivet number 3, put it in slot number 3, rivet number 4, number 4. Mike, we're at rivet number 5. Let's keep, oh, right, great. Now let's pick up the pace, Mike. That's what I need, right? I needed somebody fucking to do all my goddamn thinking for me or to get out of my way. I realized that this is the only way that people were going to get completely out of my way, but my world was utterly rocked by the pandemic because my plan and the only way that I'm really comfortable talking to people is face to face, right? So March of this year, I'm going to go back to Gamma, this time not as a retailer, but as a podcaster and pretend journalist. I'm going to go back to Gamma and I'm going to start reestablishing connections. And then you start COVID rumors, which you'd heard, but no one was like really taking it that seriously at that point. And at Gamma, I mean, people aren't showing up. There's tons of cancellations. There's talk that the show's not going to happen in 2020 because of this COVID thing. I go anywhere, right? I had the goddamn time of my life. Get some great audio, some cool recordings, but then, my next plan is, all right, cool. So right around the corner, we've got Adepticon. So we're going to go to Adepticon. It's going to be super kick-ass. I'm going to get my business cards. I'm going to get out there because to get people to pay attention to me, I have to meet them in person, right? No one who doesn't know me personally or who hasn't met me in the flesh is going to bother to go to my goddamn website and listen to my podcast. They're just not going to do it.
Right.
So I need to go out and press the flesh. So that's my plan. I've got my money set aside. I've got my basically my battle plan for the rest of the year. All my conventions plotted out. When I'm going to go, what states I'm going to be driving through. And then I'm getting ready to do my interview schedule. And then conventions just start dropping like flies. I mean, I think Adepticon was canceled while I was at Gamma, if I'm not mistaken. I could be.
No, Adepticon was canceled the week and a half before Adepticon because I was going to.
Oh, really? Okay.
I was like, please cancel this because I don't want to have to be the person to cancel my vacation.
Oh, right. That sucks. Okay, I thought it was, but anyway, it's all sort of confused in my mind. So now I've just been in this holding pattern, but I realize that, if I'm going to do anything special that stands out, then it's going to have to be sort of my passion for models and the narrative that I put into models, right? So I don't think that for me, I mean, I'll put painted models online, but my intention is document the process, right? And say, hey, here's the conversion that I did. Here's where I got my heads. Here's where I got my suppressors. This is what I did. Here's the piece of art that inspired me, sort of thing. That I think would be something that sets me apart. If I really wanted to be a YouTuber, I would do terrain, man. I would want to do like Black Magic Craft, Wylock, DM, Scotty, that level shit, right? The world doesn't need another fat cracker painting miniatures, another obnoxious, libertarian pothead making terrain. Maybe that'll go over.
There is a market for everything these days. So like, I don't know. I personally don't know what works because I sometimes wonder how my show has worked. Because I'm like, if you would have told me that this is something I'd be doing right now at the beginning of COVID, I would have been like, you and I are in very different worlds, sir.
So are you monetizing?
Yeah.
Right on. So through Patreon, I presume?
$20. I do have a Patreon, but like I do get ad revenue from YouTube. It is minuscule. And so like any of you guys using like Pop-Up Locker, you should really consider just paying for a YouTube subscription, and like that way your favorite creators get a little bit of money because they know if you don't watch their videos and you don't get a dime for watching their videos, or like back their Patreon, do something to support them because this content creation class. Like, one of my favorite things is,
wait, content
Big Story.
Content creation class?
Yeah, dude, like this is a new job, content creation.
I got what you're saying. Okay.
Are you in or are you out?
I hear.
Like, it's content creation, and it's every little aspect of what you do. It's your Instagram, it's your Twitter, it's your Facebook, it's your YouTube, it's your podcast, it's your Twitch. It's every little thing that you do to entertain somebody. Part of it.
So I was born at the wrong time. Like, see, I loved the era. When people would talk into cans, and that, you know, you would just be drunk in your whatever, in your dresser or your trailer, and you would have your little paper here while the makeup people are doing your makeup, and then you go into sound and you do the talent, and then you just walk away. And that's not the world, right?
Same.
Yeah, it's not. No, I get it, and that's why I've been an utter failure to this point. Is that is not the world.
The idea of what we're doing, and you are making a game that sounds fascinating. I'd fucking watch YouTube videos of you gluing little heads onto, your idol of fatality.
Yeah.
I would watch that. I would you would find an audience. It might come with some toxic shit that you might have to eventually reckon with.
Yeah, what's up with that?
They don't have a sense of humor in a way that is like, oh, that's funny. They have a thing of that's either offensive or I want to be also this way with you. Like, nobody can look at it and be like, I'm being fucking funny. It's just, tongue-in-cheek bullshit. Like, you gave the fertility idol nipple piercing.
I did.
Which is fucking hilarious.
So, I mean, if you want, full disclosure, I almost gave her a clit piercing. It was very, very touch and go. But then I realized in the kit that I had purchased from the local crafty store that the rings that came with it, just none of them were small enough, and I'd never find it anyway. So I just figured, fuck it, abandon all hope, and bought some candles from Cromlac.
I mean, but that's the sort of thing that you could turn that into a video, and the problem is that I've never, you may be edgy, you may say shit that is very blue, and people who aren't ready for it aren't, but at the end of the day, you are, pro-women, you're anti-racism, you're exactly what everybody fucking wants. You just have a fucking sense of humor that nobody knows how to deal with in 2020. But that could be a thing. That could be a thing of being I can be PC, but also blow your fucking doors off at the same time. We don't have anybody like that in the space. You are that. And you do good conversions. You could be doing.
Well, right then. Now you've super encouraged me between you and my wife. I'm buying. I'm seriously, my camera. Okay, I don't want to. I hate talking about stuff before it's done. I have a camera. I have a lighting system. It's all at Schiller's. I just have to go pick it up. I had to wait for a couple things to get ordered because everybody's doing YouTube videos now. But
everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing it. Yeah. But I mean, dude, I'm doing it all on my fucking cell phone.
Me too.
I don't have any extra money. And you know what? It's all right. I got monetized on Twitch with my cell phone. I did all of these things because
can I pay you a consulting fee? I will. I'm not even fucking kidding. If there's one thing I have, it's nickels to rub together. Dude, I will pay you to come over and consult to help me get this squared away. I'm not even fucking kidding.
I'm sure we can make something work because I want to see content creators who have something valid. Because the one thing when you and I first started talking all these years ago now, you were like, I fucking hate painting. What I like to do is I like to mod the fuck out of shit. And I was like, why would anybody do that? And then you explain some things and show me some photos. Okay, all right. That's way different than what most people are doing.
Because
a lot of people are like,
here's a 40 millimeter base. But here's a 40 millimeter base with a bunch of accoutrement and bits from Reaper and Frostgrave and whatever. And it's got a little recess in it because when you're playing Frostgrave and it's in the middle of the battlefield and it's all the items of power, you want to make sure that your wizard is going to fit right in there with his spell book and his sacrificial dagger shit. That's what I want to do. But these guys are done.
Yeah.
Painting them is now a fucking chore. I want to give these to another human being to paint, or I want to develop a slick balance of speed and good looks. That's the quest I'm on.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think that the difference between what you want and what a video once, you're going to find her very different, because that's the thing that doing hobby videos is, you think it's going to come easy. You think it's going to come with just one model and you go through it. Oh. No, it's like, you're going to put a lot of time into it and you're going to have a lot of failure. Like, it just happens.
What do you do for example, audio editing sucks. I can't imagine what the hell video editing is.
It's not fun. It's not fun, but I am going to find a good way to put like a little thing to come up over the camera while you are medicating, just so like this video is going to go live. I'm going to do a couple different things that'll be like, here's like a kitty cat, like in the middle of the screen, just to be, because like you have to learn this stuff, and you have to not be afraid of it, because at the end of the day, if you're just doing this to stroke an ego, there's a million other ways to fucking come. Like, you like don't have to do it in front of people. You can do it like.
So as much as I do very openly desire to be adored, it's really honestly what it's not about.
Sure.
It's so lame and cliche and whatever, but it's about the time you get that message on Facebook where someone's like, hey, that was really cool. That dude lives in my town and I never heard a show. Or it was really neat.
I love that.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's the reason to do it. And currently that's why I don't ask anybody for any money, because my product's not worth money yet. That's why I don't ask.
Right.
So and like, as soon as I'm comfortable,
point,
yeah,
that will change. And that's going to be a thing that you'll need to be on literally every single platform. Fucking around. You don't have to spend all your day on there. You need to spend enough time that when somebody searches you, like, I just tell people, fucking search my name. Look at me. I'm fucking everywhere. Whether or not you want me to be here anymore, I'm here. And there's some weird growing pains that come with that too, because like I've now started to get like the backlash of like, why should I be listening to you? You've only been doing this for 2 years. But it's like, yeah, but look at what I've done in these fucking 2 years. What have you done in 2 years?
Yeah.
What have you done in the last 10?
Yeah.
Fucking see it.
The amazing thing about it, and the thing that makes me so frustrated about the tension in culture right now, dude, you don't have to listen to me. You don't have to. Now, I'd love you to give me a shot. I hope that your buddy heard me and your buddy turns you on, or your buddy's girlfriend thinks that I'm fucking vile and disturbing, but she hates me so much she can't stop listening. Whatever. I don't care. If you don't want to hear what I have to say, you tuned in, you didn't like it, you don't tune back, that is okay with me. But don't try to shut me up. Come on,
right?
Man.
There's a really interesting aspect of like all the big guys have all talked to me about it. Like, once you get to a certain point, like, you're just going to get hate. And it's like, you don't have, there are a million other things that you can do. You don't have to like hate on people either. And that's the difference right now with the internet that I hope we get past. Right now, the internet is in its like evolutionary, path where it's probably like, it's past its terrible twosomes, but it's like not quite like maybe it's a middle schooler. It's vengeful. It can like go weird places. Like, it's not an adult yet, but maybe eventually it will be. And when it is an adult and people can go like, oh, I don't like that. I don't need to say anything about it. I don't need to like shit on it. I can move on. Maybe we'll be there. And I'm hoping that day will come, but it seems to be, especially, in the miniature world, ever since fucking like Games Workshop, like I'm proud of them for like saying racist not allowed, fucking get out. But ever since then, it feels like the hobby space is just riddled with fucking minefields everywhere. And people are just waiting to shit on the new people coming up. And it's very weird. It is a weird, landscape out there right now. And I think it needs more people to have sense of humor, but also to be like, fuck you, move on. Like, people who are able to stand up and say when things are wrong, but also like there's nothing wrong with having a sense of humor about stuff, and there's nothing wrong with like horror movies and dead baby jokes were my fucking favorite thing for like 15 years.
Yeah, oh my God.
It's just like,
dead baby jokes are a fucking classic. Absolute classic. Oh my God.
So, I mean, it's like one of those things, like I think that there is a point where we're going to see these things. We're going to have like an adult version of the internet, but we're just not there yet. As you walk in, And as you do these things, like, just armor yourself. People find really awesome ways to pierce you that you're like, fuck, that was horrible. And they basically just said that I say the word too much. I'm like, my fucking heart. Why would you do that?
Oh, dude, no, it's brutal. Like, I told my wife that I'm gonna make a so and fascinating jars. And anytime that I say the word so, and whether I edit it out or not, somebody gets to come and kick me in the balls or some terrible thing. Oh my God, I just have so many speech tics that I have to cut out that I fucking hate. Ugh.
Dude, and you are just now medicating in your 40s. I permanently Swiss cheesed my brain in my 20s, and then the continued alcohol abuse after that. So, dudes, likes. Ooh, like is it's one I use a lot. I did this college dissertation paper where I was being interviewed about miniature painting, and they gave me an annotated document that showed and Heath gestured to the camera, but I did a find and I said 357 times in a 40-minute interview.
Oh my God, that's fucking brutal. Like, that's where ignorance is bliss. Like, I don't want to know.
You don't want to know. You just don't want to know.
Oh, God. So, I mean, all right. So I started because I love talking to people. And if people who are listening are not familiar with my show, which I'm going to wager they are not, it's called Why We Game. And the idea is that I want to sit down with the guest, and the guest is, as a general rule, if you are someone who is a gaming professional, right? Obviously, you got into the profession because you're, in most cases, interested in the hobby. So if you are a hobbyist who is so passionate that you also want to make the hobby your profession, those are the people that I want to talk to on the show. So YouTubers like Heath Aldrich, or board game charity founders like Mindy Johnson, or OG classic retailers like Dave Wallace or Steve Lusinski, who is the owner of Miniature Market and is a millionaire at 39 and has one of the largest businesses in the industry. I mean, that's what I want to do, because I want to learn about them, and I want to learn about their hobby experience, and I want to learn about their professional experience and how the two overlap. So, Heath Aldrich, that's the kind of thing that would drive me crazy, is me saying that. So, but why gaming? Like, how did you put down booze and then go to fucking miniatures?
I mean, what else are you gonna do?
Well, no, that's not an answer. An answer would be like, oh, well, one day I was driving by the store. I saw a Miniature Market, and I was like, I thought they sell doll houses. And you went in and you met this super cool guy who used to be way fatter and not as good looking. And he was talking to you about toy soldiers, and the rest is history. Like, how did you start?
I mean, I got into close-up card magic.
Shut up. No, wait. Okay, hold on. Time out. I am not shitting you. Close-up magic, not illusion. Close-up magic is my favorite fucking thing.
It's so
adore it. There's a video from, I think, 2016, where this guy does a card trick, and things are constantly disappearing, and he's, losing, he's changing the color of his
green.
Changing his vestment color of his, just super cool shit. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, dude. I went from being I don't know. I should be doing music, but music and me are directly tied to alcohol and substance abuse. So it took me a while to get comfortable to play music again. And so I was like, what the fuck am I going to do with my time? And so I was like, I don't know, Gorm looks cool. Let's fucking buy Gorm. And that was it. I've always played games, and I just didn't want to play Dark Souls anymore. That's truthfully it. I didn't want to do video games anymore.
So you're
tired of being alone.
Gotcha. You're from the school of punishing video games then. You don't just want to have your dick kicked in, you want to be ground to pulp.
Yeah, that's the reason why I like old school D&D and none of this new 5e stuff.
Wow, okay.
I want to know that I can die.
Are you familiar with the delightful dungeon crawl class? Well played. Okay.
I mean,
so you're covered.
I love Dungeon Crawl Classic, but I like this shit right here. Old School Essentials.
Yeah, I heard a review. I think it was Old School Essentials. I was listening to a review from a reviewer I'd never heard of, boy, he got super political about stuff. And I was like, dude, I don't care. I mean, you could be somebody with whom I agree politically, just complete lockstep. If I just don't want to listen to you blather on about your thing, I just don't fucking care. Tell me about your game and why your game is super cool.
Assholes are everywhere, even on the same side as you.
Oh, sure. Well, fuck, I am one. I mean, I am, and yeah. I know I'm a divider of people. I know that, that I am abrasive, and I'm not doing it because I get a charge. I just generally look, I mean, you like me, you don't like me, whatever. I mean, there are some criteria that I have to evaluate about whether your opinion matters to me or not, and I spent so many years, just being this fragile fucking little kid who got beat up by his mom all the time and, just emotionally just crushed into powder and just was weak for a long time and wouldn't stick up for myself, or I can't, too fucking old to live that way, man. I've lived so much of my life being scared of rejection and failure and whatever, that I don't fucking care. You don't like it, don't tune in.
But then why set yourself up for failure, man? Like real talk 2020.
All right, real talk 2020. What? Okay. So you clarify for me, how have I set myself up for this failure? By not diversifying my technology base, or?
Like the things that you're doing, you're getting people, but I see that you do this on Facebook because I'm friends with you on Facebook. Or I've never seen you anywhere else. I've never seen you in any other forum besides your Lady of Fatality, which went over like a fucking lead weight.
Went over like a lead weight. No PR is bad PR, man. Are you kidding? That was my first delve into putting a miniature out in the fucking ether. I thought it was goddamn splendid. That was a bloody success is what I would call it. And it'll be super, super bloody. I mean, that is going to be one goopy vagine. That is going to be a wet wizard sleeve when I'm done painting it. I mean, it is going to get so blocked from Reaper. I'm going to get banned. It's going to be fucking awesome.
You will get banned. That there's one thing that they don't want, and they don't want to look bad in front of people right now, especially since they're on like a really good upswing, and they need to keep whiz kids at bay, and somehow they're going to have to deal with 3D printing. Like,
well,
there's a fucking reckoning that's coming that I am like really interested in where we're going to go.
So, okay, one, I think the whiz kids miniatures are brilliant. All right. And yeah. This is just my opinion. This does not represent the opinion of the Influence Foundation. Wait, yes, it does, because I'm the only employee.
You are the
I am the Influence Foundation. Yes. So I love the WizKid miniatures to a point. Their owlbears are the best owlbears ever. I almost spent $75 to buy Army Painter paints that I already had so I could get the special release one. I didn't do it because I'm not that obsessive compulsive, but I have 3 of their owlbears. They're Manicore. They're Wyvern. Those models are great. They're regular 25 millimeter humans, dwarves, elves. They're fucking garbage. They're absolute garbage.
Yeah,
and
pretty bad.
I've been collecting miniatures for so long that my Reaper miniatures at least are in the same relative scale. And I play so much, for me, 3.5 D&D, that I have all the miniatures I want, and these guys just look dumb by comparison. I don't get them. And even if I wasn't collecting miniatures, I would go toward Reaper than I would over those figs. And the monsters,
dude, their Bones line is so good right now. The Bones collection is fantastic.
Again, I love Bones for anything that would be D&D large scale. So 40 mil base or bigger. For Bones, I'm in. Anything that's their standard size, I'm out because they're floppy. I know you can get them hot. And
the black is great, though, man. The black stuff, that plastic's fantastic. I don't know if you picked up much. No,
you're right. I've got some of the Gnome Warriors and the Halfling Thief guy because I'm building a Gnome Underdark Frostgrave warband. But, and nice. Of course the fertility or fatality idol, she is, Bones black. But again, you get those shitty axe handles, spear hafts. I just don't want to dicker with it. If I'm going to spend time chopping up a model or trying to get it perfect, it's because I bought grab shoots from Mad Robot and, you know, groin plates from Victoria Miniatures and tinkered with it that way and spent an hour reading on the internet about grab shoots and drop troops so I could have a facsimile. You know what I mean? That's what I mean.
Well, I mean, like, why haven't you started casting your own stuff and sculpting your own, man? Like, you've got the passion and the vision.
Because do you know how talented? Do you know how much hard work? So here's the future, Heath. If I was going to do anything, if I was going to do any business, this is what my business would be.
This is the BHAG. We're ready.
I would do something similar to Romeo at Battlephone, and Romeo is a genius, and his wife is delightful, and Kip is my fucking hero, and assuming everyone's still there. I haven't spoken to them in years since I actually dealt with actual business accounts. But anyway,
sure,
I would do what he did. And I would basically make something and try to work out a deal. I mean, I wouldn't work out a deal because Forge World already has that, but I would want to do facsimiles like Victoria Miniatures, Cromlech, Mad Robot. All these companies do great bits.
WRTL stuff.
Yeah. And who did you say?
WRTL. They're fucking amazing.
I am unfamiliar. I will look as soon as we're done, which I'm happy to talk as long as you want. But as soon as we're done, man, I'm looking them up.
WRTL.
WRTL. All right. So what I want to do, I want to do facsimile replacements, right? But I want to do them on a 3D sculptor, so I don't produce anything. They're 3D sculpted. You get the STL files. You print it yourself, and they're recommended for not for your filament printers, but for resin printers, right? And so I have right hands and left hand facsimiles like you'll get from Cromlech or Anvil, whomever, for bolt pistols and shit. Like that's the thing that I would want to do. And then I would want to have them sprued up in a way so that the guide rail things are already built in, and there's already a divot for your pin vise. So when you print it up, there's already a hole dead center where your pin should go. That's what I would want to do. I don't want to sculpt, right? Because that's a lot of work and artistic talent. And I don't have artistic talent like that. For me, the Idol of Fertility, that just happened because I took a miniature and said, I don't want it to be this anymore. I want it to be something else. What do I want it to be? And started hacking at it, right? Like I didn't plan that. Right. I just got my kit out and just kind of mashed it together. I don't know if people want to watch that or not.
I think they do. I mean, like, a lot of people do. That's all anybody is doing on, like, any of the YouTube stuff. Like, I have this thing. I want to change it. Like, if you sat down and watched any, like, Black Magic Craft or...
Oh, God. I adore him. I adore Uncle Adam. I adore him. I adore Miniac. I saw that you interviewed, I can never say his name right, Squidmar.
Yeah. All of them right now are in this like phase. Although Squidmar not as much, but everybody is like customizing their stuff. Like, watch some of Miscast. He's making a Nurgle army from scratch, and it's some of the most amazing content I've ever seen. And it's like some of them you're like, that isn't great, but then he like hits it with some spray paint, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second. It doesn't have to be great. This is fucking amazing. Yeah. And it's his like diary through the madness of making an army from scratch. And like by the end, he's got the coolest fucking Nurgle army I have ever seen. And like, it's been some of the best content I've watched on YouTube besides finding Craftsman. Like Craftsman is the best YouTube I have ever watched. Period. Full stop.
All right. I've never watched Craftsman.
Well, Craftsman, WRTL, you've got some homework to do tonight. We do need to get wrapping up. And
sure.
So you basically told me your BHAG, which is your big, hairy, audacious skull, which I love that idea of doing something like that. I think, the 3D printing revolution is not going away. And and bits like that is where it's at.
I don't want to be a 3D printer technician, right? And if anyone who's listening to this who's heard my show knows that I've got pretty firm feelings about, I'm not a 3D printer technician. It's not what I want to do. And when resin printers don't poison my dog and it's plug and play, right? So like great places like Titan Forge. There's a lot of good companies that do it that I'm forgetting. where the support struts are already built in, pre-supported. When that's the case, man, dude, I'm fucking in. And we can have that conversation next time.
Yeah, it's coming. Like, almost everybody's doing the pre-supported stuff now.
All right.
So, well,
if you wouldn't mind, Heath, I would like you to be my first time second guest. I would love to get together and do a special bonus episode where you and I talk specifically about 3D printing and the future of miniatures, because I know that I meander and it gets tangential, and I know that you've got to get going. So I want to get that on the books, because we'll talk about why the WizKids miniatures suck, why I don't like all bones, and about how I agree with you completely that someday when I when I buy miniature games, I'm just going to buy a PDF and STL files.
There's going to be some stuff right now. There's a Kickstarter called, I cannot remember it, and it's going to make me feel bad because I'm friends with a guy on Instagram. Something about a forever forest, a massive forest, something. Oh my God. And the game comes with 5 miniatures, but if you pledge like an extra $20, you get 78 miniatures to make the game cooler. And I'm like, oh, 78 STL files? That's pretty fucking cool. Print out what you need, use them for your other games, but like, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I want to get together with a sculptor who will not be named, and I just want to say, hey, I'm going to do an encounter do basically like these epic encounters like Mantic did, where you go to the game store, you've got your map, your whatever, blah, 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 but instead it's just, here's the PDF, here's the STL files of the 8 orcs that you need for this encounter. Fucking go to town, right? Every orc's unique. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you, but I get it, brother. You got to go.
Yeah. Mike, do one good plug for your show. Like, I want people to be able to check you out, because like I said, I really do appreciate what you're doing, and you are talking to people that never see the light of day. Like, that's the shit that like I love, because this hobby is so much cooler than just like the 10 people that you know. We all know Jamie Stegmeyer, which I'd like to talk to him someday, but also it's just like there are like a million other people. There are a million other people in this town that are doing it, and like it's
I mean, we've got Greater Than Games. We've got Genius Games. We've got Stonemeyer Games. We have the guy who fucking owns Miniature Market. We've got the guy who literally wrote the book on being a retailer in the industry. We are a glut for choice in this town, man. We are super, super lucky. Heath Aldrich, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure, and I'm very, very serious about you having a discussion about just miniatures. I think we should. Just the 3D printing and the future of home game making.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Right on, man. Take care. Why We Game is a production of the Influence Foundation. All rights reserved. Audio editing by Brodor. Music by Owen Godwin.